Thank you so much. And joining us now for more is Congressman Subramanyam, Democrat of Virginia and ranking member on the Oversight Committee on Military and Foreign Affairs. Congressman, thank you for being with us live from Capitol Hill this evening. Just on the DOJ now dropping definitively this $1.8 billion fund. Is this objectively good news? Is it enough to satiate you and your colleagues who are upset over this deal, or do you need to see the audit question resolved too?
Well, we need to see the audit questions resolved, but it's good news for now. What we know about this administration is when they have a grift in mind, they're going to continue to try to pursue it, even when the courts try to stop them. And so it's good that they have dropped it for now. I think they needed to drop it in order to get a reconciliation bill passed. It wasn't going to pass otherwise. But we'll see what happens throughout the summer and into the winter, whether they still try to push it forward.
Well, there are some Republicans who have talked about crafting legislation to this end. I know that some Democrats have already drawn it up to keep the president or vice president from pursuing claims like these. Congressman, do you want to see that specifically if Democrats take control of the House to keep this or future administrations from pursuing a slush fund like this?
Absolutely. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, you should be angry about this slush fund. And I don't care if it's a Democratic president or a Republican president. We should be stopping these kinds of moves because they're bad for our democracy. They're bad for the American people. And it's a terrible waste of taxpayer dollars.
Congressman, given that you are overseeing the ranking member on the subcommittee of military and foreign affairs. Obviously, United States foreign affairs-oriented decisions and military decisions are informed by United States intelligence. And I wonder what your reaction is to the tapping of Bill Pulte, who, of course, has been leading the FHFA, as Director of National Intelligence today, at least on an acting basis. It's unclear whether or not he would need to go through the full nomination and confirmation process. But is he qualified for this?
No, he's absolutely not qualified for this. And in his current role, he has simply just carried out the president's agenda against political enemies. And that's what he's expected to do in his intelligence role. And so that's why he was tapped to do this. It's not because he was at all qualified. It's because the president wants him to go after political enemies using our country's intelligence service. And that's a scary thought for someone like me who's a Democrat. It should be a scary thought for all Americans. In the end, our intelligence agencies are so critical to our national security. To have someone completely unqualified running them is deeply concerning.
So who should be worried? Congressman, you used to be an advisor for former President Barack Obama. Does he need to worry now that this has taken place, or other political enemies of Donald Trump?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the end, first of all, I don't think Bill Pulte would even be confirmed by the Senate. I hope I'm right about that, and I hope Republicans in the Senate don't prove me wrong there. But second, yeah, this is, again, part of an agenda to go after political enemies. That's why Todd Blanche is the acting attorney general as well. You're going to start to see more people in these acting roles in the administration try to carry out the president's agenda against political enemies and carry out the president's agenda even when it's deeply unpopular with that person or with the American people.
Joe mentioned your work advising former President Obama. You were advising him specifically in tech policy. So in the tech policy realm, I wonder if you view the AI executive order signed by President Trump today, essentially enabling government agencies and AI companies to work together to head off cybersecurity risk from advanced AI models. If you think this is adequate, a 30-day window voluntarily for government agencies to be able to review new models before their release.
Yeah, you said it yourself, voluntary, right? So the good guys will come and work with us. Right? It should be mandatory. I think in the end, if you're going to be developing products that could have an adverse impact on the nation, we should at least have the ability to take a look. In this framework, the good guys and the good actors will come and have their models examined, but the bad actors will not. They will choose not to. This is also very limited in scope. It was really disappointing overall. There's some good stuff in there. I'm not saying it's all bad, but I'm saying that we need more comprehensive policy when it comes to AI, including these models. And I think Congress needs to act. I don't think it should be done just by executive order.
Well, so let's hear more about that, Congressman, because we've spent so much time talking about the need for guardrails. The regulation's clearly not keeping up with this very quickly evolving technology. As a former tech advisor to the president and as somebody who represents the data center capital of the United States of America, what do you need to see now? This won't be the president forever. There's going to be another administration that needs to get its arms around this. What can Democrats in Congress do today?
We need to see legislation on regulating these frontier AI models and the development of them. We also need to see some policy making on protecting the workforce and the future of the workforce in AI. It's having terrible consequences for entry-level students even and people across the economy. When you see policy on data centers...
Would you consider a moratorium on data centers? How do you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, I think localities should be able to do moratoriums, but a national moratorium is going too far because in the end, what's the concern I have is that we have to build data centers to keep up with the AI products that are coming out right now if we want to continue to be a leader. And so we need to do siting better. And so I'm looking into legislation that calls for looking into where to put the data centers so it has the power infrastructure needed, so it's not hurting communities and steamrolling communities. And this all needs to be done in Congress.
Well, we'll look toward that potential future legislation. Meanwhile, it's a different piece of legislation, a resolution, really, that is expected to be on the floor of your chamber tomorrow on war powers. It was, of course, pulled by House leadership before the Memorial Day recess over concern it would pass. Even if it does pass tomorrow, what's the consequence, knowing the president can just choose to ignore it, to veto it?
Well, I think it's symbolic. If the House of Representatives, which is controlled by President Trump and a House of Representatives that he has very much controlled from the very beginning, if they vote for a war powers resolution, that is a message to the president and this administration that the Congress that he supposedly controls is against his policies in the Middle East and this war. And so I think it's a symbolic vote. Yes, he would veto it, but I think it's an important vote to have and an important message to send to the president.
Congressman, it's good to have you back. Subramanyam, Democrat of Virginia, we thank you for joining us, as always, on Bloomberg. Wall Street